representative for FAO, distinguished panelists, development partners, agriculture sector representatives, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a great honor and privilege for me to be present here on a very important conference organized by FAO on cluster-based agriculture development in Pakistan. As it was mentioned that this idea is part of the Vision 2025 initiative that was launched during our previous government in 2014. And what we sought to do through this initiative was to maximize the value, the potential of the endowments that Pakistan has been blessed with. We all know that the world has greatly changed, and it is even changing faster with every passing day. And my most common example of this change is, I always tell people that we read in the history books that there was a time when dinosaurs occupied our planet Earth. These were gigantic species that once lived on this planet Earth, and then they faced extinction. And whenever we read their story, so one wondered that how can this happen, that something as gigantic as dinosaur just disappear from the whole planet. But very recently, we saw some dinosaurs disappearing before our own eyes to show us that how winds and forces of change are accelerating. Just until few years ago, there were two dinosaurs in telecommunication industry, Nokia and BlackBerry. And where are they today? They have gone to the graveyard of telecommunication technology. Why? They failed to align themselves with the changes that were happening in their environment. So any country or any sector or any business that will not align itself with the new forces of competition will also meet their fate. So if we have to move forward, we have to align our production with the new opportunities and threats that are emerging. Last year we have seen that one of the major threats that we face is climate change. Pakistan faced a major climate disaster with loss and damage of over $30 billion. If we do not adopt resilient and smart agriculture, we do not embrace new technology, new seeds which are weather resistant, we will have even more problems in future. So in 2014-15, we started a journey that how can we look at some of these structural problems that Pakistan faces in its economy and correct them. And let me say that when you try to fix a policy or a structure, when you try to bring a structural transformation does not happen in 2, 3, 4 years. You can do a good project, you can build a good farm, you can build a good highway, you can build a good project like energy project in 4, 5, 6 years. Or you can even run a successful program. But if you want to implement a policy, that requires at least a decade-long continuity and stability. I mean, who would know better than agriculturists that you can have best of the best seeds in the world, which gives maybe 100 tons per hectare. You may plant it, but once you plant the seed and if you keep plowing the land after planting the seed, that seed will never germinate and will not give you even a single ton of any yield. Once you can do all sorts of preparation in the ground, but once you plant a seed, you have to provide stability to the soil so that the seed can germinate, it can take roots, it can grow as a healthy plant, it can give the fruit that it ought to give. But by bringing shocks into the soil after plantation, you make sure that that best of the best seed also fails. And that is the irony of Pakistan. In last 75 years, we have failed to produce the kind of political stability that would warrant continuity of policies for a decade. When we had decade-long stability, our priority was not economy, our priority was fighting someone's war. So in those stretches of 10 years, we did not do any restructuring or transformation of the structure of our economy. We only fought someone else's wars. But beyond those 10 years, tenures of dictatorships, no democratic political government was allowed to continue beyond one term, and as a result there were policy reversals and we could not get the dividends of the good work that we were trying to do. And this cluster-based approach also represents one case study, that we did this study with an idea that we will identify the clusters and we will do the value chain analysis and try to maximize Pakistan's agriculture production. Unfortunately, for 4 years, it went into cold storage because it was done by previous government and there was no ownership. But I am very happy that finally it caught the interest or the eyes of FAO, which has now taken up this study, and this is really the key to our future. I started this work based on what I had learned during my MBA at Wharton and from the work of Professor Michael Porter, who probably did the most important work after Adam Smith's book on the wealth of nations, when he wrote his book, The Competitive Advantage of Nations, in which he presented a diamond framework to analyze how countries can grow and how different countries develop their competitive advantage based on the factor endowments, the firm level strategy structure in that particular cluster, what is the level and interaction with related supporting industries, and what are the demand conditions. And within this, he presented the concept of a value chain, that you have to look at an idea of any product from the first inception as an idea to its being a sellable product in the markets. So how do you go from first logistics of inbounds to processing, how you process it, how you take it out, how do you market it, and how do you provide after-sales service? The whole value chain has to be done. And let me give you an example that how value chain works. On 14th of February, I was attending a conference in Dubai. So in the hotel where I was staying, when I came back, on the housekeeping staff had a very well wrapped rose put on my room with their Happy Valentine's Day card. Now that one rose would at least be, I think, 50 cents or I don't know, $1 or whatever, very beautiful. And they had distributed these roses to all the rooms. Now we have a cluster in Patoki, which produces horticulture and floriculture. We don't produce any less roses, but what do we do with our roses? We cut their petals, we throw those petals at our public jalsas or at best at our shrines. And that's it. The rose is gone. So if that producer of rose also gets connected to packaging and processing sector, and that value chain also gets connected to the outbound logistics, someone who can fly those roses to Dubai or Europe, and that also gets connected to the market intelligence. So what will happen? That one rose will fetch not few paisas for per kilo, but maybe $1 for one cut flower. And there will be a tremendous value maximization. But because that value chain is missing, so every product that we have is sold like a commodity product. So therefore it is important that we begin to identify our clusters. Within each cluster, do a complete value chain analysis and begin to plug the gaps in our value chain so that we can maximize the value of our produce. Pakistan does not produce any less agriculture products. If you take our top 10 items, including dairy, Pakistan is in the top 10 producers of the world in most of these product categories. We are the 5th biggest producer of milk in the world. But what is our per animal yield? Lowest. We are among the top 10 producers, as far as I can recall, in wheat, in sugarcane, in cotton, in rice, and in other major products. But what is our yield per hectare or acre? Among the lowest. In each category, we are much lower than the world average. So if we can only come up to the world average, there is $14 to $15 billion gain that we can make. So how do we do that? That can only be done if we can have a proper cluster-based approach. And what does a cluster do? Cluster gives you a geographic entity of inter-sectoral combination of companies, institutions, and organizations which operate in one field. So it creates that kind of economies of scale for everyone to come together and complete the value chain and maximize the value of the product. So I would like to thank FAO for helping us to pick up this work that was done in 2016-17 under Vision 2025, bringing it to life. And I want to assure you our full support from the government. And I think private sector has now a duty to come up and invest in these areas. We are one of the top, I think, 3rd or 4th biggest producer of dates in the world. What do we do to our dates? They just either go, they are wasted in the fields, or some of it goes outside as a commodity where someone else adds value to them, packages them, labels them, and we buy back value-added dates when we purchase them at duty-free shop in Dubai. So why cannot we do all of that in our own country? Similarly, mangoes or fruits or vegetables. So there are a whole range of activities where there's so much to be done. We haven't even scratched the outer surface of our value proposition that we have in each sector. And I think if private sector investment can come in and can complete the value chain, there is opportunity for them to make profit. There is opportunity for farmers and the stakeholders to get richer, and there is value for the country to earn more foreign exchange, because Pakistan, what desperately needs today is to develop an export-based economy. As it was pointed out, we keep going through this cycle that whenever we grow, our demand to consume imports grows, which means that our propensity to consume dollars increases, but our corresponding capacity to earn dollars does not increase because we fail to export. So unless we will learn to export more, not just export more, but export exponentially more, we cannot break this cycle. So therefore, it is quite a pity that a country which till 2018 was self-sufficient in agriculture is today forced to import its even basic agricultural needs. By 2017-18, we were self-sufficient in wheat, in cotton, in sugar, but today we are forced to import wheat for about 3 to 4 million tons wheat we imported this year. Similarly, sugar, and likewise cotton and other agricultural commodities we are supposed to import. I got quite, a campaign on social media when I talked about import of tea, that a country like us, which is even today asking friends to roll over dollars, imports and consumes $500 million worth of tea. Why cannot we have our own indigenous production? The tea farm that we set up in Mansehra area has been very successful. But all we need to do is to translate into a business proposition. We need to offer large-scale farms of 10,000, 15,000 acres in the areas where we can grow tea and offer them to big companies, and they will, I think, develop the tea plantations and tea processing value chain, and we will be self-sufficient in tea production. We can produce the best tea in the world. Similarly, edible oils. Pakistan today has very good seeds for canola oil. Why not also take up the challenge of soya bean, which we import with millions of dollars? I went to Agriculture University and they showed me that how they have developed excellent varieties to produce our own soya bean, and that way we can be self-sufficient in that. So in each and every category there is a great opportunity. I think the time has come to connect the dots. We have been able to develop basic competencies. Now we need to develop a good business model, connect the dots, and have this cluster and value chain approach and adopt that triple helix model where government, private sector, and research institutions work as a team in each cluster and can implement all the great ideas that we have in these recommendations, in these research reports. There is plethora of work. There are piles and piles of studies that have been done. I think it is about time that we start implementing all the wisdom that we have. And as you know, some professors of Stanford University once published a paper in which they said that the disease of a sick organization is that it has a knowing-doing gap. It knows a lot, but it hardly has capacity to implement the wisdom it has into action. Because the culture of status quo is so strong, and the culture of resisting risk or any change is so strong that that organization, despite knowing the benefits, does not go outside its comfort zone. So let us now leave our comfort zone, embrace these new ideas, new technologies, and develop collaborative spaces with private sector, research institutions, with government at the back. Give private sector the lead, because public sector, I would say, has gone broke. In 2018, I was sitting at a development budget of 1 trillion rupees. 1,000 billion rupees was the PSDP. After 4 years, when I have come to Ministry of Planning, the development budget was 550 billion rupees, and this year 727 billion only. 4 years ago, I used to start my day thinking which new project I have to start today. Today I start my day by planning where to cut how much and which project to close. We cannot work like this. When government, has no money in its kitty, public sector investment is not there, what do? The only engine of growth is private sector investment. So we have to enable private sector investment in agriculture. We have to attract foreign direct investment in agriculture sector. And I hope that, we can, just as we have some multinationals in dairy industry, if company like Delmont or, other similar food multinationals can come to Pakistan, I think that will make a big difference. So we need foreign direct investment. There are huge markets around us. China, which is our best friend just across the border, has a huge potential for imports. And they are encouraging us all the time. But what happens is they say that every time we send you a trade mission, all you have to offer is rice. How much rice can we eat from Pakistan? So we need to, broaden our surplus portfolio. We need to have more variety. There is unlimited demand for meat in China. There is unlimited demand for fruits and vegetables in China. There is unlimited demand for many other agricultural commodities. As Dr. Amir was showing, that all of our good trade partners have great propensity to import agricultural products. So let's make Pakistan the future export house in agriculture with collaboration of private sector. And I would like to thank FAO once again for arranging this meet of government, private sector and research institutions. We are also about to launch an agricultural transformation competition between all our agriculture universities and veterinary universities, PRC and NARC, to give us a solid plan for next 5 years, practical, doable ideas through which we can have breakthrough results in agriculture sector, and whoever wins this competition will give them a 1 billion rupee research grant in next PSDP. So Pakistan, Zindabad.